Hello and welcome to this special bonus episode of In The Roud. Greetings and salutations, dear listeners. My name is Matt Quinn and welcome to this special bonus episode of In The Roud, a folk song podcast. We're in the middle of our break now between seasons. We've just finished season 4 last week when we had the episode on Lord Bateman. We've now got 2 months off, 1 month while I'm at folk festivals in August, and then another month for me to actually prep the next season. Season 5 will be in your ears on October the 1st, I hope. As you know, In The Roud is a media partner to Veteran, the traditional music label. For those of you who are unaware of what Veteran is a small independent record label devoted to capturing the finest in traditional music from across the British Isles. Started in 1987 by the late great John Howson as Veteran Tapes, the label produced 25 cassettes before moving to CDs in 1993 with a name change to just Veteran. Under John's time as label director, Veteran produced nearly 60 albums of traditional music from the British Isles, all of which are essential for anyone with an interest in traditional song and music. When John Howson very sadly passed away in 2022, his widow Katie took on the label before then handing it over to its current director, Mossy Christian, in 2024. Under Mossy's leadership, Veteran is continuing to produce albums, and we're here today with this bonus episode of In The Roud to take an in-depth look at the latest release. In fact, if you're listening to this episode on the day it goes out, Wednesday the 6th of August, then the CD is launched today. And there are launch events today at Sidmouth Folk Festival, this coming Sunday the 10th of August at Dartmoor Folk Festival, and then on Thursday the 28th of August at Whitby Folk Week. This new release is in fact a re-release. In 1978, Pete Coe, singer, musician, all-round folk troubadour, as he's called, went down to Cornwall and recorded songs and interviews with 3 Cornish travellers and sisters, Betsy and Charlotte Reynolds and Sophie Legg. This collection of recordings had a Veteran Tapes release in 1990 and then a Veteran CD release in 2002. And now, 23 years later, it's getting a new CD re-release with some extra content. The previous releases only featured the songs that Pico collected from the women, but the interviews remained unreleased. But they're on this re-release too now, along with 3 bonus songs in fact as well. Before we get into the interviews I have done for this episode today, let's hear a couple of tracks from the CD. The CD, by the way, is called Catch Me If You Can, Songs from Cornish Travellers. What we're going to hear now is an interview with one of them, only about 25 seconds long, don't worry, and then we'll hear Betsy Reynolds singing Roud 5387, Good for Nothing Man.
My husband's mother said to him, "Why are you doing it, Jack?" Oh, he said, "I don't know, because he was very fond of his mother and she was very fond of him, I think." He said, "I suppose I've fallen in love." She said, "You'll lose all your friends, you know." He said, "I haven't got many, mother, only you." And after we did marry and after they travelled a bit, he had more friends than ever he had in his life. When I was young and gay and my age was 17, I sighed for a lover night and day. I was going along one day when a man stepped up to me, and I walked away with a good-for-nothing man. He come home from a spree and he'd broke his trousers knee, and the tail of his shirt was hanging out. In the middle of the night, sure he wanted me to fight. At him I let fly, pulled his hair and blacked his eyes, and I hit him on the smeller with the pot. I picked up the rolling pin and I let it into him, and I called him a good-for-nothing man. So he began to bawl, and two bobbies they were called, and they walked away, my good-for-nothing man. So all you married women free, keep your spirits up like me, and never let your husband carry you down.
And that gives you a flavour of what's on the CD. All three sisters ended up living in Cornwall, and Sophie Legg's son Victor and her daughter Vivian are alive and well and still singing and living down in Cornwall too, and they are both in regular attendance at the Great Bodmin Folk Club. For the first of this episode's 2 interviews, I was honoured to be joined by both Vic and Viv Legg to chat about their mother and aunts and about the songs of their family. Well, hello and a big welcome to this bonus episode of In The Roud, Viv and Vic Legg. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello, it's so great to see you. I don't get to see you very often because of our distance, the distance between us. I'm up near Sheffield and you two are in the far end of Cornwall. Not quite the far end of Cornwall, are you? Whereabouts in Cornwall are you?
It's Cornwall. Really.
Basically central Cornwall.
Central Cornwall, okay.
Yeah.
I only get to see you whenever I come and perform at Bodmin Folk Club, you see. So it's
Yeah, we're mid Cornwall, yeah.
yeah, so it's nice to see you guys outside of Bodmin Folk Club as well. Yeah, how are you? How are you both? Are you as well as can be expected?
Fair to middling or muddling?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Oh, fit as a flea.
Bit of the flea. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. It's yes. You're both looking very well, I must say, on this Zoom window. We're here with this bonus episode of the podcast, talking about the re-release of a CD that came out a while back, and we'll hear from someone who instigated that later on. This is all to do with a CD called Catch Me If You Can, songs from Cornish travellers, and the Cornish travellers in question are your mother and 2 aunts.
That's right.
That's correct.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah, Sophie Legg, your mother, and Betsy Reynolds and Charlotte Reynolds. And we'll come later on to talking to Pete Coe, because I know Pete Coe was the one who recorded them, and all the recordings that are on this CD were made by Pete. So this is a new edition of the CD. The CD came out a while back, but we've got some new tracks and some interviews that never got released. And we'll talk more about the release and the recordings with Pete later on. But for this half, I wanted to talk to you specifically about the 3 women, who are the focus of the CD, and about their lives and their songs and their repertoire, and how that relates to you two, and the songs that you sing. So, start us off, Betsy, Sophie, and Charlotte. Sophie, Betsy, Charlotte, whichever way around you want to do it. Who were they? I mean, your mother and aunts, but let's start off with the obvious question: when were they born?
Yeah, Aunt Betsy was born in 1900. Aunt Charlotte was born in 1901, and our mother Sophie was born in
1918.
Wow, okay, so quite a lot younger then.
Yeah.
Betsy was the oldest in the family, and Sophie, our mother, was the youngest
Of 7.
in the family.
Of 7 children.
Yeah.
7 children. Wow.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the other 4, were they brothers or more sisters?
Yes, there was brothers.
Yeah.
There was
Uncle Jim
Uncle Jim and Uncle Eddie.
and Uncle Fred, who sadly died.
Uncle Fred, he died at 21.
Oh wow.
But there was a young girl, a daughter as well, that died at 4 months old.
Right. Okay. Because I didn't know that at all. All I know really is are these 3 women.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The other siblings, out of curiosity, we're not talking about this really, but the other siblings that survived, into sort of adulthood, did they sing as well, or was it just these three?
Uncle Jim sang.
Uncle Jim sang one song. Uncle Jim did, but Uncle Eddie wasn't a singer, but he was a musician and a
Oh,
songwriter.
oh wow, excellent.
He was the fellow that was the instigation for Rob Murch to play banjo, because he
Oh,
taught Uncle Eddie taught the man that taught Rob Murch how to play the banjo.
oh, fantastic, excellent, lovely
He
connection
played
there.
he played banjo, guitar, and accordion. Uncle Eddie did.
Excellent. So yeah, it's two of them born just at the turn of the century, and then Sophie just at the end of the First World War, I guess. Then.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
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 Mother was born actually in a field across the road from her grandparents at Hat at Saltash.
Right. Okay.
And they built a house there, which was called Brittany Villa, which was named after our great grandfather Jim's mother, Britannia.
Wow. Excellent. So, can you just give us a bit of a flavour of their lives, I guess, in terms of biography? What were their did they have occupations? What did they do for a living?
Their occupation was their life. They were traveling hawkers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm starting to read about hawkers. I'm reading a book on that sort of thing.
They all had to have a hawker's license. I remember when I was a young lad, a policeman stopping my granddad in the street in Bodmin and asking him for his hawker's license. Granddad always carried it, but that was the situation they were in all the time. This sort of thing happened, but Granddad always renewed his hawker's license. There's a difference between a hawker and a peddler.
Peddler, yeah.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And the hawker was had a bit more leeway than the peddler. The peddler could only sell in the street, where the hawker could knock on doors.
I only sort of know more about Mum. She started hawking when she was 11 years old, going along with her mother, our grandmother Susie Orchard, and she carried a little suitcase of a few little things to sell. So after Gran had gone up to the door and done what she wanted to do, then Gran would allow her to open her little suitcase up and then sell a few little bits that she had. But at the age of 14, our grandmother got sciatica. And so then she helped our grandmother with all the hawking and carried the suitcases for her all around. They used to do a tour all around quite a few miles. And obviously they would call them back hawkers because they walked and they'd carry their suitcases. I know Mum said that Aunt Betsy and Aunt Charlotte would carry two in their hands and one on their back. It was a lot of hard work.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
When Granny and Grandad got married, first of all, they didn't go immediately into the hawking trade. They didn't have much money. They had a little flatback pony and trap with a bender tent on it. They had about 10 shillings between them, didn't they?
15 shillings.
15 shillings
And
between them.
Yeah, they borrowed 10 shillings of that.
Grandad was 21, Gran was 17 when they married. And they joined Scarrett's Fair, Scarrett's Fun Fair, a travelling fun fair, a Plymouth-based travelling fun fair. And Grandad and Granny had a shy at the side of the fair, not coconuts necessarily. It was anything I could get, old second-hand plates and discards and things like that to throw wooden balls at. And Grandad had a big beer barrel, quite a big one, which he would stand in, and people would get 3 sticks. They'd pay, I don't know, a penny or tuppence or threepence, and he'd bob up and down in the barrel, and they'd throw sticks at him. But also, he was a bare knuckle boxer.
Wow, okay.
And he earned his money to get them started off. They, along with the bare knuckle fighting, take on anybody and fight for the nubbins. The nubbins were the money that was thrown into the ring. If you win the bout, you pick up the nubbins.
Well, yeah, very good.
That's how they basically got some money together to buy a thing called a brush wagon. Now, the brush wagon that they bought is the one which is in one of the photographs on the CD with the chairs, the wicker chairs on the top.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the brush wagon they bought after they finished with the fair. With all good grace, they knew the Scarretts quite well.
They were relations.
Yeah.
Scarretts were related to us back a bit further on. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And
Nice.
then they struck out on their own then. And by 1904, they had 4 children.
Yeah. Just trying to think. Yes.
They were married in 1899. By 1904, they had 4 children.
Well, wasting no time.
Well, what do you do in those days?
What else is there to do? Yes, very good. So, I'm assuming then that because of the subject of all this stuff, they were in Cornwall as well.
Devon first, wasn't it, Victor? They weren't in Cornwall first. It was Devon.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So, do they grow up in Devon then?
Yeah. Well, Grandad was a Plymouthian. Grandad it was Plymouth stock. And Granny came from the other side of the Tamer, near Saltash, on the road to Callington. There's a place called Botus Fleming. And that's basically
well, that is Cornwall, and that is where our mother was born at Hat.
Right. Okay.
That's where my mother was born at Hat, yeah. Because when I went to school, they asked me a question, where were your parents born? And I said, my mother was born in a hat.
Grandad, when he left, well, he went to school one day in his life. That's all. Learned to sign his name. That's all it was night school.
Yeah, that was before he was married. Yeah.
But before he was married, he worked in the sidings in Plymouth, one of the docks in Plymouth, where the coal wagons were brought in to feed the gasworks with coal. And he used to offload the railway wagons with a shovel into the gasworks for £1 a week, 6-day week, pound and threepence a week. I can remember him telling me this story. And the owner kept the threepence for wear and tear on the shovel.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So were they travellers? Did they live sort of anywhere and everywhere?
Grandad's family were pretty much settled in Plymouth.
Yes.
But they used to go hawking in Plymouth, you see.
Right.
They would hawk the city streets and all the people in Plymouth. Yeah. On the other side of the Tamer, there was no such city, no such thing. And our great grandfather didn't do it. He bought land, and a railway company came and bought the land from him.
That's on our grand's side.
Yes, it's on our grandmother's side. They bought the land from him, but the railway was never built.
Oh.
So him and his brother made a fair packet of money, and they bought property and basically lived from renting houses and things like that. I think he might have done a bit. Our great grandmother used to do hawking. She used to go hawking.
Britannia, she did, but they bought 4 houses in Hat, plus the post office, plus they built some cottages to rent out for the poor people. So grandfather then bought them. So they were called Pinkham cottages, and he'd rent them out to the poor people at the time for a nominal rent. Yes, but he owned practically all the village at that time.
But great granddad had a nice house built in Hat called Brittany Villa. It's a very, very nice place, and he lived there.
Yeah,
right.
Him and his wife Britannia lived there.
And I've been in contact with a lady that lives there now. Sent her a photograph of our old granny with a broom, which the vicar took, and she's going to put it with the deeds when she passes on.
Oh wow! Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So what about Sophie, Charlotte, and Betsy? Where did they sort of end up living?
Where did they end up living, Aunt Charlotte and Aunt Betsy? Well, that's Harley Terrace, isn't it? Really?
Well, that's where they finished their lives, in Harley Terrace. But in between their birth and where they finished up, there was quite a few differences because they married two Gorgie boys, two farmers' sons, who were two brothers. So two sisters married two brothers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then they struck out on their own. The two lads went traveling with their new wives. To cut a long story short, Aunt Charlotte spotted a little property, which was a blacksmith shop on the edge of Lanhydrock Estate. Bought it for £60.
I don't know the amount.
I think she bought it for £60 and turned it into a bungalow. So Aunt Charlotte and Uncle Bob settled there. Aunt Betsy was still traveling, and Uncle Jack were still traveling for a while, but they bought some land and had a bungalow built near a place called Castle Cannock.
Which was a stone's throw from Aunt Charlotte, not far away.
Yeah, not very, only a mile or so away, that's all. And they settled there, but still went hawking. Aunt Betsy was hawking for years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was by car, not like Gran and Grandad with horse and cart and things, horse and Vardos. Yeah, but then it was Harley Terrace, wasn't it? Then it was Harley Terrace.
Then they sold up. Both of them sold up. Not first of all because Aunt Charlotte went to live in Clifton Terrace first of all.
Yeah.
But Aunt Betsy moved into Harley Terrace, and Aunt Charlotte not too long afterwards followed her. When a house became vacant, she lived in Harley Terrace as well. So we lived in number 2. Our family, so Sophie, that is, lived in number 2. Granny and Grandad lived in number 5. Aunt Betsy lived in number 7.
And I live there now.
And Aunt Charlotte lived in number 8.
So their grandparents bought 7 of the 10 houses in the terrace.
Right. Great. Fantastic. Sort of rounding out the sort of a little bit of biography. When did all 3 of them pass away? When did they die?
I'm not certain, but to go back to Harley Terrace, I was born in number 2, and Aunt Betsy actually delivered me on her birthday.
Oh.
Yes, helped deliver me. But I can't remember when they died. Can you? I don't know the dates.
Aunt Betsy and Aunt Charlotte.
When they passed away, I don't remember the dates.
No.
I was at the cemetery yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I went to Granny and Grandad.
And your mother as well, when did she pass?
Mother was 2007.
Oh wow, yeah, okay. So
she lived with me, you see. I was her carer for the last 5 years of her life. She had a lot of problems, blindness, death, and a lot of other medical problems.
Oh, okay.
And I looked after her, and she came to live with me for the last 5 years of her life.
Right. So that made her 89 years old?
Yes. Yeah.
Grand. A grand age.
Yeah.
Yes, all of them were quite old when they passed away.
See, Mother, when she came to live with me, I hadn't started really singing folk, but something would trigger her off with a word or whatever, and she'd say, "I know a song like that," and that's how I learned from her some of the songs from herself that she'd remembered from childhood.
Okay, as you mentioned the songs, let's get on to the songs. So obviously, all 3 of them had songs. We've got recordings of all 3 of them on the new CD and the previous release as well. Where did they learn their songs from?
Well, I've got a theory that the source of the family songs were really our great-grandfather on our grandmother's side, Jim Orchard.
Oh, okay.
That's Jim and Britannia. That's Granny Susan Orchard's mother and father. But Jim Orchard, Granny's father, our great-granddad, I'm sure was the main source of songs, but by no means the only source. They learnt from their friends, other traveling people, songs. I'm guessing they would swap songs, but there was markets and fairs where they would meet up.
And pubs, yeah.
They would meet up in pubs or usually in pubs, landlords were a lot more lax then. The rules weren't as tight. They could go in, and provided they were behaving themselves, they could have a yeah. They could have a good evening out, and especially on fair days and market days, that's when or if they met up as a group, sometimes they would meet up on the road just by chance. They couldn't read or write, so there's no posted letters. They didn't have an address.
Sure, yeah.
It was just chance that they would meet up. But the important things were the fairs and the markets. That was where travellers would gather, and then they'd all have a good time.
Yeah, very good time. I remember Mother telling me she drank too much ruby port. She slid down wherever she was standing, drank so much, went home and came back and started again in the evening, but she couldn't drink tawny port again.
But
ruby port, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
But their sources would be family, cousins, etc., and perhaps uncles and aunts and friends in the travelling community.
I think our grand sister Aunt Delia used to sing.
Yeah.
So that was a source as well.
Gran had a load of songs. Our grandmother sang all day long and all night long. I was reared by Granny and Grandad. I was born in their bungalow. Granny brought me into the world, and songs were second nature. They were singing it all the time. I can remember her. She was a bit of a roughhouse, was Gran, and she used to dance me on her knee.
And me,
singing step dance songs.
Yeah, because she was a great step dancer.
Yeah. And I can remember her doing it. She was rough as hell. She was.
Yeah, but even in our house, Victor, we were always singing. I was singing, Mum was singing, Dad was singing.
Yeah.
We were all always singing, and it was just you didn't take any notice. I know one of my ex-husband used to say, "I can't understand why you get up in the morning and you can sing."
Yeah, along the back of Harley Terrace, it isn't quite like it now, but there used to be a right of way all the way along the terrace, and you could walk up from the end along the back path from where the garages are, and let's say I was going to go up to Granny's place, and you walk past Aunt Charlotte's, and you hear her singing away in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. I was out in the air, and fresh air, and she'd be inside singing in the kitchen, cooking or washing or something like that,
Yeah, fantastic.
They'd always be singing, always singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Always a song on their
And
lips.
Aunt Betsy was a good step dancer too.
Who?
Aunt Betsy was a good step dancer.
Granny was better.
Yeah.
Granny was wonderful step dancer.
And if she heard any music, if she was out anywhere, she'd lift her skirt up and go, woo!
All my eye.
Oh, wonderful. And in fact, you've answered my next question. My next question was going to be about where did they sing, and you've kind of answered that already, which is fine. It's all good. So just to reiterate there, that these three sang in the home with the family, and also in social settings as well, at the pub and wherever, basically.
That's it. That's a good summary.
Yeah.
Time marches on, as we all know.
Indeed.
And onto the scene came the wind-up gramophone. Which is portable. So a new source of songs was available. And Aunt Charlotte in particular, liked comedy songs. Now, where she learnt them from, I've no idea. But
musical songs.
A good guess is probably musical songs on 78 records.
Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, that's because we have, I mean, this isn't particularly relevant, but in the same kind of way, just over the way from you in Dartmoor, you've got the Dartmoor Pixie Band, and that was led by Bob Cann. And considering it's so far away from Scotland, the Dartmoor style is very reminiscent of Jimmy Shand.
Yes,
that must be through gramophone records. Bob Cann listening to Jimmy Shand on the radio and through gramophone records. So I think, gramophone records are probably a much more important source of song transmission than a lot of people give it credit for, I reckon.
The gramophone was around because Uncle Jim was the last to stop traveling in the family. And I can remember going up to a place near Camelford called Sparkwell, where they were hatched up. That means they were in tents there, and listening to Pam and Jean's records on a wind-up gramophone.
Yeah.
Of Slim Whitman.
Yeah.
Songs like Tumbling Tumbleweed and things like that. They loved country and western. They loved it.
But saying that Uncle Jim was the last one, Sophie and Betty, his daughters,
well, I'm talking about uncles and aunts.
Yeah.
Right, sure. So Sophie, Charlotte, and Betsy, their repertoire then of songs. I don't suppose you ever bothered to sort of make a note of how many songs they knew. Do you have any idea, even roughly, of how many songs each of them knew, or collectively?
It would be difficult to say. It depends if you're talking about traditional folk songs for a title. How many would they know?
Oh, I don't know, because a lot of them
probably 30 or 40.
Right.
Because our grandfather used to sing as well. Our grandfather knew a couple of songs.
Oh, didn't he just?
But he knew one called The Prisoner Lad that I sing on the tape, that Mum said he used to sing that one if he was asked to sing anything.
But they also had other songs, popular songs of the day.
Yes, and so this is the thing we have when it comes with song collectors, is that a lot of song collectors, of the name song collectors, people like Cecil Sharp and Sabin Baring Gould and those kind of people, a lot of them were only interested in what they called, in quotes, the old songs.
Well, that's what our family called them, the old songs.
Yeah, which is what we would call just folk songs, traditional folk songs.
Yeah.
Whereas Steve Roud, when he created the Roud Index and he's indexing all the songs, he's not interested in just the folk songs. He's interested in all of the songs that the folks sang.
Yeah.
And so I take that view as well. It's, these people sang songs. Consequently, I've said this, some listeners on the podcast will have heard me say this before. The song How Much Is That Doggy in the Window has a Roud number because a traditional singer had it in their repertoire. They sang it, and therefore it's got a Roud number.
Yeah, Mother used to sing that around the house. Mother used to sing that around the house.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all... But yeah, so I guess if it's 30 or 40, in quotes, folk songs, then it's probably a good deal more of just any old songs that they knew.
They sang the songs they liked, regardless of whether they're folk songs or not, which we consider folk songs today. They sang a mixture. They're great fans of Jimmy Rogers. Even today, travellers are fond of Jimmy Rogers.
Well,
and you can see the reason why when you look at what he was and the songs he sang.
Yeah,
because it was a railroad man travelling.
Of course, yeah, of course. Brilliant.
And the songs he sang, they could associate themselves with the songs he sang about people travelling on the rail. Didn't make it. It was
so of the old songs, if you like, the folk songs. Was it within that? Was it a wide sort of variety of types of songs, or did they just have? I was asked, was it like just ballads or just sentimental songs, agricultural songs, or was it like a mixture of song types?
It was quite a spread.
It was a mixture.
It was quite a spread of songs from ancient ballads, which they got a version of eventually, to rude songs.
Yes.
Oh, rude songs.
Bit near the knuckle.
Only to be sung in certain company, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And did any of them, the three, Sophie, Betsy and Charlotte, did any of them have a particular favourite type of song that they liked the most?
The one that they recorded that Mother's favourite, she told me, was by the old Riverside. Down by the old Riverside, which is on a CD.
Yeah. That's right. That was her favourite.
That was
song.
her favourite.
Yeah.
I would say probably Aunt Charlotte was "Catch Me If You Can," wasn't it? Aunt
Could well
Betsy,
be,
I
yeah.
mean, Aunt Betsy, Catch Me If You Can. But Aunt Charlotte was that one that you sing about the crabfish.
Well, that was Uncle Bob, really.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's one
I
of
think that was
that's one
probably
of the
a
rude
fake-
ones.
Fisherman, 1, 2, 3. Have you got a she crab you can sell to me?
Indeed, quite so, quite so.
Which she had played at her son's funeral the other day. It was very naughty, and the vicar was sitting there with a bit of a, his face didn't sort of change,
Oh, always good to cause a bit of a stir, even from beyond the grave, you know. You find this thing sometimes with the old singers that there's a level of self-censorship that went on because when you look at collections of old songs that people like Sharp collecting from whoever, the collectors would edit their own collections. They wouldn't collect the non-folk songs, and Sharp might have, or whoever might have edited out the rude words and things. But then sometimes you find that we think that when a collector was collecting the song from the singer, maybe the singers chose which songs to provide to the collectors. And when these three were not necessarily being collected, but singing in company or to whoever, was there a level of self-censorship there in terms of they wouldn't sing a certain type of song in a certain type of company? Or do you have an answer for that at all?
I can tell you in all honesty that they didn't edit any of their stuff. If you took it for what it was, and bearing in mind that they usually sang in their own company or company of other traveling people and friends, so there was no highfalutin Cecil Sharps around at all.
Of course, yeah.
So there was no editing. It was they sang the songs as they learnt them, and you accepted what they sang or you didn't.
I remember Mother saying she'd hear a song once and she'd remember it.
Yeah.
Just by hearing it once. It takes me ages to learn something.
It's a skill, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal memory for songs, Mum had.
Yeah.
So there was nothing there like, there wasn't any kind of like the rude songs, for example. Some singers wouldn't sing the rude songs in particular company. There was nothing like that. There was nothing.
The particular company was all friends and people that they knew.
Yeah, sure.
There might have been strangers out on the fringes, but
yeah,
they were only listening over people's shoulders.
Yeah, so it didn't matter to these women what they were singing and to who they were singing to or anything, no.
No, not at all. Not at all. It didn't matter at all to other people, to these women, what they heard, but it didn't matter at all.
No. Very broad-minded people. Very broad-minded people.
Wow, excellent. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so we're going to come to the chat with Pete later on about his experience meeting them and how he met them and then recording them, the songs and the interviews. So the next step in this chat is actually Pete's interview, but following Pete's experiences meeting them and interviewing them and recording the songs, and then I guess because I will find this out from Pete later, but I think Pete did release a cassette of them. I think quite early on, did he? Before Veteran did the first CD.
That cassette was made from Pete's recordings.
Yeah, there was nothing before that, I don't think, Matt.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Yeah, so it was that cassette that Pete put out, and then the Veteran CD.
And it was recorded in the house that I live in now, that Aunt Betsy was living in at the time.
Oh, wow, excellent. So following on from Pete recording and interviewing them and meeting them, and the release of that initial cassette. And consequently, with the release of that cassette, these women's names became a bit more widely known to the folk scene, in a way. Did these three women sort of become, I don't like the word celebrity, but kind of a bit more of a name to the folk scene? Did they come out and sing at folk clubs and things, or did they stay as they were?
Well, Aunt Betsy and Aunt Charlotte never sang in a folk club.
No.
And in their latter years, they never even went to the pub, especially when they became widows. They didn't go out to the pub. They stayed at home. They kept their own company. They lived next door to each other, and they would share.
Sang amongst themselves, really. Sang amongst themselves, really.
Yeah. And Mum, of course, Mum went out, but Mum would go to in their latter years, and after the Bodmin Folk Club was well established, she would come along every now and again, along with Dad. Dad would as well go to the Bodmin Folk Club and enjoy themselves. She wouldn't sing all the time. I think she probably sang one or two songs the whole time she went.
Yeah.
Dad was different. Dad would get up and sing like hell.
But they weren't folk songs. He was a different type of singer. If you ever heard of Mario Lanza, that was Dad's sort of voice.
Okay.
And he sang that type of
but
thing.
He had a few corny, rude songs that he used to sing.
Yeah.
So these three women were they just not interested in or were they not really aware of kind of the folk scene, as it were, the actual folk music, or were they just the songs that they sang rather than thinking about them as folk songs?
I don't think they were aware of people out apart from their families and whatever that sang. I think they only became aware when Pete came along really and recorded them.
I think they had an inkling, Granny and Grandad anyway. I think they had an inkling of what they had in their minds and the songs that they sang, because when we moved from Lanson to Bodmin in 1945, October 1945, just after that, they had a radio, a wireless, not a radio. They had a wireless, a great big battery, big ever-ready battery in the bottom, and an accumulator that had to be charged up every week to run this radio or run this wireless set. And every Sunday morning, Grandad would go down, I want you to go with Grandad, go down to the town to get this accumulator, which was on charge, and take down the other one which had run out and have it put on charge, because they wanted it for Sunday morning, because on Sunday mornings, the program on the the BBC Light program was As I Roved Out.
Okay, yeah.
Ewan McCall.
Yeah.
And others. And they would listen to this every Sunday morning. And Gran was wonderful. She'd hear somebody sing a song and she'd say, "That's not right." And she'd sing at the radio as if they could hear her singing, you know.
Wow.
They also listened to Radio Erin, which I don't know what days were broadcast, but I'd go over there. I was always going over there, and they'd be sitting listening quite intently to that as well.
Right. Okay. So yeah, they did have an idea that these songs were sung elsewhere, because you do get some of the old singers who didn't know at all. It was they considered them to be sort of their songs, and that was it. But
yeah, well, I think that they gave them the program As I Roved Out gave them some idea that what they had was worth listening to, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. And other people knew them. It broadened their outlook.
Yeah, of course. And we're going to draw this interview to a close in a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you briefly about the two of you separately, I guess, but your singing. Because I know you both sing and have sung for a long time. Did you learn a lot of their songs? These three women. Did you learn a lot of their songs?
Well, that's what I do. I sing. I've learned their songs. That's mainly what I sing. But Victor's got a broader repertoire than me. But I learned mainly from my mother when she came to live with me, and listening to Aunt Charlotte's and Aunt Betsy's recording and re-recording them myself, which I've done. But Victor's got a broader aspect than me.
Yeah. So Vic, you've learned things from songs from elsewhere as well.
Being in the family and talking of songs meant, because I was born into it, I couldn't see the wood for the trees. Because those songs are going around and around me all the time, basically speaking, they didn't mean anything to me. They were just there. As much as I might have liked him, they had no specific meaning. And of course, when I went to school, it was different. We used to have singing together at school, which was a great thing for kids.
Yeah, we did.
And learned lots of songs and folk songs as well on the radio.
Barbara Allen.
Yeah. And then, just before I left school, Lonnie Donegan hit the scene with the skiffle groups.
Yeah.
Just basically a type of folk music. and we all sang these songs. We used to sing like hell. Skiffle groups came up like mushrooms everywhere. And this is the progress it made. Not too long after that, 1957 was when I left school. In 11 years later, we started a folk club in Bodmin. And that was because we were losing places for traditional singers to sing. Bodmin Folk Club started to support the tradition. People like Charlie Bate, Mervyn Vincent, all these people were losing venues to get a song in. The Bodmin Folk Club catered for people like that. So the family songs didn't seem to have any relevance to me.
Because them all the time.
Yeah. Because people were making recordings by then. There was everybody was out. Martin Carthy, people like that, you know.
Yeah.
Making recordings for people who were interested in folk music and the folk revival to listen to. The family songs seemed irrelevant. It wasn't until I heard a recording by Yates. What's it called? Mike Yates, of Travellers from Epsom Way, the Smiths and that, I thought to myself, well, Granny and Grandad and Aunt Betsy and sing these songs and they sing them better. And here's these people got a record.
Yeah.
So that's when my interest in the family songs started to take off.
But I want to add as well that I learned a couple from my father that I recorded. One of them, there are two of them, but one that Mike Yates can't really trace, and that's called The Way of the World. And how I found that, we were clearing out the drawers when Dad had died, and it was written on a piece of paper. And I took it to Mum, and she said, I don't know the words, but I know the tune. So that's the way I could put that one together.
Ah, very good. And once we finish this chat, and in the middle of the episode, I'm going to play two tracks, one of each of you singing, because you both made albums for Veteran Records. And Vic, we're going to play the track of you singing Thorny Moor Woods.
Mm-hmm.
That's from one of the three women, isn't it? Who was that from?
That's from Mum.
That's from Sophie.
Mum sang Thorny Moor Woods.
Yeah. You might not have anything to say, but do you have anything to say about Thorny Moor Woods and your mother?
No, I must retract what I said earlier on about they wouldn't edit the songs. Funnily enough, in that song, Mum did edit the song. She wouldn't sing in public. She'd sing to her family and other travelling people. The last line is, and the bloody old judgy can kiss my ass.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, sure.
She wouldn't. She would go as far as kiss my and stop.
But we sing kiss my ass.
Yeah.
But you sing it in its unedited form. And Viv, we're gonna play the recording of you singing "Young Sailor Cut Down," and you learned that from Charlotte.
I'm Charlotte, yeah.
Right. And is there anything? Do you have any sort of anecdotes about that song in relation to Charlotte at all, or you don't have to? But
not that song. There is one with Aunt Betsy, but that's for another time. I can tell it then.
Right. Fine. Lovely. Right. I think and then we'll play those two recordings in the episode break, along with. I haven't decided yet, but I think at the time of this recording, I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to play a track from the new re-release, a recording of your mother, Sophie, singing something. Probably the title track, Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
And then we'll get on to Pete. So, what a fantastic sort of legacy that you two have with these family songs and knowing how far they go back to Jim, was it you said? A lot of these songs learnt from.
My great grandfather Jim. Yes, probably they were
great grandfather.
And I think we'll finish there. So this has been really fascinating to hear all of this from you two. And today, the day we're releasing this episode, is the 6th of August, and that is the day of the launch of this re-release CD. And all going well, you two and I will be in the same room at Sidmouth Folk Festival launching this CD. So I'm looking forward very much to seeing you both in person.
I'm looking forward to seeing you.
And to end this, Viv and Vic Legg, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Matt.
And there we go. What an absolute honour to have a conversation with two genuine legends of the traditional folk singing world. A huge thanks again to Vic and Viv Legg. Let's hear 3 whole tracks now. We're going to hear Sophie Legg singing the new CD's title song, that's Roud 1028, Catch Me If You Can, and then both of her children, Vic and Viv Legg. Vic singing Roud 222, Thornymore Woods, and then Viv singing Roud 2, Young Sailor Cut Down.
It was early, early, all in the spring, down in those meadows growing green. A fair young lady I chanced to see, and I asked her if she would walk with me. I asked her if she would walk with me down in those meadows, oh so green. I'd show her flowers and pretty things, and I'd show her what she had never seen. As that young couple went strolling along, he sang to her some sweet pretty songs. He sang to her some sweet pretty songs, and soon he gained her favour. Now since you had your will of me, and stolen away my sweet liberty, you have stolen away my sweet liberty. Will you please tell me your name, sir? My name is Catch Me, that's if you can. I'll marry you when I return. I'll marry you when I return. I'm going across the wide ocean. Now 3 long months they had gone and passed, and 6 long months he never returned. 9 long months it had come at last, and that child has got no father. Now I'll search this wide world around and round, and I'll find that young man if I can. I'll find that young man if I can, if I catch him at his pleasure.
In Thornymore Woods, near Buckinghamshire, there was 3 keepers they lived near. They don't live a mile from each other's door, right fally ral diddle dal day. Now me and me dogs went out one night, a rightful laddity rifle day. Me and me dogs went out one night, right fally ral diddle dal day. Over hedges, ditches, gates and stiles, with my 3 dogs close after me heels, to catch a fat buck in Thornymore fields, right fally ral diddle dal day. Now the very first night we had bad luck, me very best dog, now she got struck. Me very best dog, now she got struck, right foully ral diddle dal day. She came to me both bloody and lame. I said, you're not fit to follow the game. I said, you're not fit to follow the game, right foully ral diddle dal day. I searched her wounds and found they were slight. It was some damn keeper who done it for spite. It was some damn keeper who done it for spite, right foully ral diddle dal day. I'll take me pike staff in me hand, and I'll roam the woods till I find that man, and I'll hammer his head right well if I can, right foully ral diddle dal day. Now we roamed the woods all through that night, we roamed the woods till the broad daylight. We roamed the woods till the broad daylight, right foully ral diddle dal day. And the very first thing that ever I found was a large fat buck lay dead on the ground. I said 'twas my dog gave you your death wound, right foully ral diddle dal day. You'd have laughed to have seen poor limping Jack, how he stood there with that buck on his back. He was just like a Yorkshire man with a pack, right foully ral diddle dal day. And the very first piece we offered for sale, it was to an old cook who brewed bad ale, and she tried to get me 6 months in the jail, right foully ral diddle dal day. And now our trial is drawing near, to the justice meeting I have to appear. To the justice meeting I have to appear, right foully ral diddle dal day. And now me trial is over and past, and me dogs come clear at last. The bloody old judgy can kiss me ass, right foully ral diddle dal day.
Down by the dark arches I went for a walk, love. Dark was the night, and so dull was the day. And who should I meet there but one of my shipmates, wrapped in white linen, as cold as a Calais. I called for a candle to light him to bed, love, likewise a flannel to bind around his head. His poor head was aching, his kind heart was breaking. He was a young sailor, cut down in his prime. His old aged father and his old aged mother oft times had told him it would bring him to ruin. Along with the flash girls he took his delight in, now they have brought him to his solemn grave. On the crossroads there were two girls a-standing, one to the other she whispered and said, "Here comes a young man whose money's been squandered. Money has brought him to his solemn grave. All of you follow, carry a bunch of primroses, a bunch of primroses, each one in your hand. Beat the drum slowly and play the fife lowly. Play the dead march as you follow me on. Take me to the graveyard, fire 3 volleys over me, just to show I'm a young man who knows he's done wrong. Then on my tombstone there'll be 3 verses written. All you young men, take a warning by me. Don't never go courting the girls in the cities. Pray stay at home and keep good company.
And if you want to hear more of both Vic and Viv, their solo albums are available to buy from Veteran Records. Vic's album is called I've Come to Sing You a Song, Cornish Family Songs, and Viv's is called Romany Roots. I'll put links to both of those in the episode notes. On to the second half now. Not only was I honoured to get an interview with Vic and Viv earlier on, but I was equally honoured to be able to sit down and interview Pete Coe himself and to hear the story of him meeting the women and recording them. So I hope you also enjoy my interview with the legend himself, Pete Coe. Well, hello and welcome to In The Roud. Pete Coe, hello.
Hello.
Hello, it's very nice to see you. How's things? How are you doing?
Struggling on. It's my age, you know.
Oh dear. Yes, I'd heard that you'd had to postpone some gigs. Through health stuff. Are you just about coping, or are you recovering?
Yes, I'm back to singing and playing again. Recovering bit by bit. A chest infection, which was nothing major, but it was just debilitating, really.
Yeah, it takes it out of you. And this was meant to be your sort of, am I right in thinking this was meant to be your sort of last tour further afield than in quotes, local stuff?
Well, it's between now and next June. It's going to be my last long distance touring.
Right, sure.
So it's sod's law, but though I live in the north, most of my work is in the south, and one gets fed up of the M25 on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, the M1 and the M25. I know them well.
Yeah, but I mean, next year I'll be 80, so I think really I've served me time, as it were. I run a folk club, and I've got other things I can do that I want to do locally. So I will concentrate after next June really on stuff where I can get back home, sleep in my own bed. So it's stuff in Yorkshire and Lancashire, basically.
Yes, of course, yes. No, that's great. Yes, you definitely you've earned a rest, I think, after all that. This is very special, as listeners have heard, because this is the second half of the episode. This is a very special episode of In The Roud. We are sort of celebrating the re-release, or in fact the re-release of Catch Me If You Can, which is the recordings of three Cornish traveller women from Cornwall. And earlier in the episode, we heard my interview with Vic and Viv Legg, son and daughter of Sophie Legg and nephew and niece of Charlotte and Betsy Reynolds, talking about their experiences with those three women and the songs they sing, and some of their family history. And that sort of, apart from going further than that to the sort of the end of the lives of those three women, we skirted over the thing which you're going to elaborate on, which is that bit in the I suppose the late 1970s, I think, is it, where you came into the picture, and the reason we are all here today, in reference to this CD re-release, opposed to anything else, is because of you. So, give us a bit of, first of all, I suppose, give us a bit of context as to what you were doing at the time, around the time when this thing started to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, in the early 70s, myself and Chris Coe were working professionally, and one of our regular folk clubs that we played at was Bodmin Folk Club.
And still going strong now, of course.
Indeed, it was, yeah, and in particular, the two regulars and the two front people really were Vic Legg and Larkan, and both very good singers, very good players. But it was Vic who was singing, sort of unusual songs or unusual versions of songs. And I said, well, where did you get that song from? And he said, that one I learned from my mum. Well, what about that one? Oh, well, that one I learned from Aunt Betsy or possibly Aunt Charlotte. And said, well, they're great songs. And this happened over 2 or 3 visits in the early 70s. And I said in the end, look, has nobody recorded your mum and, and Aunt Betsy and Aunt Charlotte? And he said, well, no, not really. He said, it's just, I just learn songs off them, really. It's just what we do, they're family songs and so on and so forth. So I said, well, what about getting them recorded? Because they're great songs. So I went back and talked to Bill Leader. Now, myself and Chris, along with Nick Jones and Tony Rose and a whole load of people, we'd recorded for Bill, but by the late 70s, Bill was having all sorts of financial problems, which in fact led to the demise of Leader Trailer Records. Sure. Bill wasn't in a position to go down and record the ladies. So I sort of contacted another well-known record label to get the astonishing comment, well, we've done Travellers. And I just could not believe it.
That's rather astonishing.
So, I mean, people can work out what the label was. You can probably work out who told me that. I stand by it. And if he sends me threatening letters, I'll send him some back. So I went back to Bill and I said, well, just, you can't do it. This other company can't do it. And Bill says, well, you'd better do it. I said, well, what with? Because, Bill hadn't got a mobile recording, good player. And I certainly hadn't. So he said, well, there are some good tape recorders around, and we can sort one out for you. And I can lend you a couple of decent mics. So you'd better go and do it then. So there I was. By default, I was suddenly a folk song collector, which was not my intention at all. So anyway, I contacted Vic, who'd become a good friend by then. And I said, look, Vic, what about me come down and talking to the ladies about recording, see what the reaction is, and we'll take it from there. So I think probably sometime in the late 77, something like that, I went down and I went round and I talked to Betsy and Charlotte and Sophie, and I said, how do you feel about me recording you? And if I could come down, and they were willing to do that. So I think Vic had done a bit of persuading as well. And so in March 1978, I ended up with a Tandberg tape recorder, a cross pair of AKG mics, and set up in Betsy's house in Harley Terrace, and we started recording. Now, Vic had given me a list of songs, some of which I knew because I'd heard him sing them. He gave me a list of songs that they knew, and that's what we started off by recording. And each day we had sessions with Betsy and with Charlotte. Now, Sophie was a bit more difficult to pin down because I think she was working at the time. Okay. And then very often during the evening, she was out playing darts. Here's a little anecdote for you. Peter Bellamy once challenged her to playing a darts match when he was down, and she absolutely slaughtered him. and he didn't take very kindly to it either. So, yeah.
I'm sure he didn't.
Anyway, so that was that. So I spent a week with them in March, recording all their songs. But the first thing that I had to do, I had to pass a little test. And Betsy said, what would a young man like you want recording us old ladies singing all these old songs? So I said, well, I sing these songs as well. So I sang the first song that came into my head. I said, look, I'll sing this song because I think it's like some of yours. And I sang a song that I'd learned from the singing of Sarah Macomb. Now, I'd actually not learned it from Sarah Macomb. I'd actually learned it from her next door neighbour, which is as close as I ever got. But there you go.
All right.
I was too shy to go and knock on Sarah Macomb's door
That's
when I'd
understandable.
learned that song. And it's a song called The Banks of Red Roses, and it's a murder ballad, So anyway, they like that. So I sort of passed my first test, as it were. So we switched the tape recorder on, and they sang. So the first song they sang was "The Good for Nothing Man," with much to their amusement and a lot of giggles from Charlotte. I mean, she was an arch giggler. She really was, because they were both looking at me every time the phrase came up. A good for nothing man, you see. So they were giving me a hard time, as it were, but very good naturedly, as it were. And I just laughed. What else?
And that's quite actually convenient and not quite fortuitous in a way, because listeners will have heard it already, but at the time of recording, I had almost randomly picked a song to play at the beginning of this episode, and Marty said, pick Good for Nothing Man, track 1 on the CD, which is in fact the first song you recorded them singing.
Yeah, that's right.
So there we go. So our listeners will have heard that song at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that obviously, I mean, I recorded some classic folk songs, Down by the Old Riverside, which Sophie sang, Game of All Fours, which Betsy sang, and what did she call it? Let me see. Charlotte sang. It's sometimes called Captain Weatherbolt. It's forget the title of the song now, and I haven't got it in front of me. So, I mean, there were classic songs, but there were also some unusual music hall-y sort of songs as well. And I was intent on recording those, and also intent on including those in what was going to be the final, initially a cassette, of course, and certainly when it came to being put on a CD. Now, I do know that one person who listened to this and was not very sympathetic towards the music hall, these sort of songs. And I said, look, this is what they sang, and it's not for me to edit their repertoire.
Indeed, yes.
I was very much against that, and to be honest, I was a bit surprised, because that person said, "Oh, well, you should have concentrated on the ballads," and there was one particular ballad that he mentioned, and I said, "Well, yeah, but Charlotte hadn't sung that ballad for quite a while, and we did actually." She faltered on it, and the tune was a little bit beyond her range on the first recording. So we left it, we recorded it, and we left it, and I tried another recording later on in the week. But, she struggled again. So, there was no point in including that, because, the ladies were still alive. And they were going to listen to this, and I needed, and we needed to represent, the repertoire that they'd got, and the best of their singing.
Absolutely.
That stands. That stands to common bloody sense.
I know I have this thing with explaining the Roud Index to people, saying about a lot of the old collectors, Sharp and Baring-Gould and whoever, as an example, a lot of them were sometimes only interested in what they called the old songs.
And
would deliberately not include the songs people sang, like musical or whatever. Whereas Steve Roud isn't indexing the folk songs; he is indexing all of the songs that the folks sang.
Well, in fact, yes, I was amused by that yesterday because, of course, as you well know, Vic has a huge repertoire of 60s pop songs, and I just wondered whether his Vic's repertoire of Everly Brothers songs has now accumulated. Whether Wake Up Little Susie has now got a Roud number.
Well, that would be fantastic.
Wouldn't that be great?
There are some. I did notice. I've said this on the podcast before, but I have noticed that How Much Is That Doggy in the Window has a Roud number, which is just marvelous. Which means I could include it on the podcast because of the history of How Much Is That Doggy in the Window. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know about Vic Legg's repertoire, but it's a fantastic thought. But nevertheless, the principles there about he's indexing all the.
I think that's as an idea we need to put that behind our ear for future reference. Really,
we do. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway,
yes.
We'd sorted all that out. I'd done I spent a week with them, and recorded all their songs, and came back and played them to Bill, and he was knocked out. Bill was knocked out. He really was, and just regretted that he couldn't do anything with the recordings. So what did we do? I think we put the recordings onto cassette, and I visited one or two people who I knew were interested in Traveller's songs, and one particular couple who had made a bit of a reputation for themselves singing Traveller's songs came out with the astonishing comment, "Well, they don't sound like Travellers to me." And then and then I took them to the record company that told me that they didn't, they'd done Travellers, and the boss of that record company said, no, they don't sound like Travellers to me either. To which I replied, no, they don't sound like you think Travellers should sound like.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
And at least he had the grace to say, yes, you've got a point. So, I mean, sure. There was this sort of assumption that in the 70s, and I suppose, this was when I was doing it, 70s and possibly early 80s, that there was a particular Traveller's sound which had developed from singing in pubs, and there was an influence, possibly an influence of a country and western elongated drawl. I mean, how do we describe it?
Well, my dad always said, this is Dan Quinn, by the way, people listening. My dad, a good friend of yours, always said that it's certainly in relation to people, to those singers like gypsy singers like Charlie Scamp, who I think was a relation of Phoebe Smith. He said that Charlie Scamp and a lot of those people, they all sounded like they wanted to be Bing Crosby. They're all crooning their way through these ballads rather than singing. I guess there's a bit of that sort of element to it sometimes.
Yes. The Bing Crosby is forgivable. I mean, he was a great singer, but it was the delivery that was that was, I don't know, sort of elongated. That people thought was was the traveller's style. And it certainly was for some travellers. I mean, because we've both heard it. There's some travellers, the early recordings, you hear, they're singing in one style, and then later recordings where they've been around a bit and been singing out in pubs and that sort of thing, where they've developed, a different delivery style. But that's not a set definition, by any stretch of the imagination. So I was somewhat astonished by their bloody ignorance, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So that was a bit of a leveler. So anyway, Sam Richards, who was a friend, I'd met him when he was singing with a cappella trio at Staverton Bridge. He'd got like a little cassette company called the People's Stage, and he'd issued some recordings of people that he'd recorded down and around Dartmoor, because he'd been a student of Peter Kennedy at what's that place down in Totnes?
Oh yes, I know what you mean. I can't bring it to mind.
Yeah, I can't.
And Peter Kennedy obviously put a lot of stuff out on his, was it Folk Tracks? Is that the cassette?
That's right.
Thing?
Yeah.
Because I've got quite a lot of them myself. I've been making digital copies and all that stuff. So yeah, it's interesting because I've never come across. This is a slight tangent, but we've got the sort of main labels, as it were, that deal with traditional stuff. We've got, I always plug these on the podcast, Veteran Musical Traditions that Rod Stradling used to run, and Topic doing the Voice of the People and all of the other ones. But then, because those are like the three big ones in our sort of line of work, it's easy to forget about the smaller ones and the older ones that never got to the CD stage. Things like People's Stage, which I'd never heard of until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And Folk Tracks, until a friend of mine messaged me saying, I've got a box of Folk Tracks cassettes, would you like them? And I said, well, what's Folk Tracks? And so it's easy to forget that there are some older, more independent labels that did this stuff, as well as what I call the big three, so. Yeah,
well, I mean, talking about Folk Tracks, which of course was Peter Kennedy, Dartington Hall was the place. That's where that's where Peter Kennedy worked. And I met him, me and Chris did a gig for him. The thing was that I listened to some of the Folk Tracks cassettes, really to get a few hints about talking to the person you were recording.
Sure, yeah.
And without putting too fine a point on it, I found Peter sometimes very patronising, but particularly when he was recording Scam Tester.
Oh, yes.
It's a great hero of mine. And I'd seen Scam Tester at Sidmouth Festival, and I was just knocked out by the guy. He played one of his tunes on the concertina, and then he sang "The Lakes of Cool Flynn." Wow, great! What? That was the only time. That was the only time I saw him. And then I listened to Peter's cassette. I mean, I might be being a bit harsh there, but I did find him patronising.
Well, I must admit, it's not the best kind of interview with Scammer. Not that I've heard any other interviews, but I must admit I found it a bit lacking in some ways, So
well, that's right. And to be honest, I was warned by Sam. Whatever you do, don't tell Peter Kennedy that you're going to record Charlotte, Betsy, and Sophie, because he'll go down there the week before you and record them, because he'd done that across Sam and Paul Wilson.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he really had. So anyway,
you did some market research.
You might want to edit that out. I don't know. because somebody might
there's
want to sue me.
controversy, but there's 40-year-old controversy. Is it
Well,
worth it?
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on Peter Kennedy.
No, actually. But anyway, you market research, listening to him and his interviews. Partly, sometimes it could be, what to do, but also what not to do, what not to ask.
Indeed, yeah. And what not to claim that is yours when he had absolutely no bloody claim on it whatsoever.
Indeed.
Talk to Bill Leader about that. Anyway, so that was that. So Sam put it out on People's Stage first of all, just a limited edition because we'd no idea what the sales were going to be, and then for whatever reason, I think Sam really has sort of lost interest in traditional music because essentially is a sort of jazz and classical player, piano, very, very good piano player. I'm not quite sure why, but he said, he was pulling that to a close. So I said, okay, well, he let me have the original tapes back. And I then took them to John Howson because John Veteran had got itself pretty well established by then. And John, of course, was interested. He chose a slightly different set of songs, and I think probably did a bit of work on editing the original tapes, possibly better than Sam had done, although I've no evidence of that. And John put it out on cassette. Because everything was on cassette.
That's right, because the record label was called Veteran Tapes then, wasn't it? Rather than indeed, just Veteran, yeah. Yeah,
so, I mean, obviously I knew John pretty well because, in fact, I'd worked for John when he ran a folk club in Liverpool before he even moved down to down to Stowmarket.
And that's when he lived in Liverpool. He knew people like Barbara Snape a long time ago.
And that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Barbara's a good friend. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's that's what we did. And John then put it out, and of course I was still selling LPs and cassettes. Because I didn't, as me and Chris went around the clubs, we weren't just selling our own stuff. We'd already done this with Bill Leader right from the very start, because me and Chris recorded for Bill, and our first LP for him was "Open the Door and Let Us In." But it was around about the same time as Nick Jones and Tony Rose and a whole load of people, and we realised that Bill had got trouble with distribution of folk records, and it wasn't just Bill. The other labels were having trouble as well. So I thought, well, look, we'll stick a load of LPs. So me and Chris were selling "Open the Door and Let Us In," but I was also selling, Nick Jones's first album, Tony Rose's first album, High Level Ranters, and then, of course, as Bill started to put out the 4000 series, which was the Leader label, the Grey series, with extended sleeve notes and photographs.
Yes, I've got plenty of them myself. Yeah,
people like George Dunn, who in fact I met George Dunn, and in fact I organised the press release for the George Dunn album.
Oh, wow.
And because the recordings were done by Roy Palmer, who was a good friend of mine and Chris's anyway. And so I was intent on taking around the old stuff, as well as, the revivalists, the youngsters like, me and Nick and Tony and the Ranters and all the rest of us. Yeah, so absolutely. I was selling all this stuff because at the end of the night, if me and Chris had a really good night, and people would come up and say, "Oh, yeah, but I've got your LP. I bought it when I saw you, a few months ago." "Oh, hang on a minute. There's the new Nick Jones album. Yeah. I'll have that off you." And Tony Rose album. And on a couple of occasions, I grabbed hold of a resident singer, a guy called Pete Timmins. I'll tell you, Pete Timmins at the Topic Folk Club in Bradford.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to Pete, you are going to love this album. And he said, George Dunn, who the hell's that? And I said, he's a singer from the Midlands that, that is, that people are just finding out about, even in the Midlands. You will love it. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to sell it to you. I'm going to do what, £4 or something like that. If you don't like it, Pete, you can keep it and I'll give you your £4 back. And and of course, I never, he loved it, and he phoned me up to say, oh, thanks for that,
Yeah.
So you have to have faith in this sort of stuff, and Chris also, we sat with Bill Leader with the recordings of Brig Fair, and because we got the a lot of notes that were done by Percy Granger, about what keys these singers were singing. Joseph Taylor, particularly singing Brig Fair, and I think it was in the key of A, something like that. And so what we had to do was Chris took her concertina around, and as Bill played the tapes, we adjusted the speed so that it was up to concert A.
Oh, I see. Right.
Because you see, the thing is that with 78s and all that sort of stuff, which some of the stuff came off, with 78 records, it varied between about 72 and 80.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
There wasn't a stand, and so that was the case with with recording. So anyway, a bit with Granger, obviously he had recorded stuff. Obviously, those are the recordings we were using,
yeah,
and those are the keys that he noted. So that's what I was doing. So we were selling all this stuff, moving back again. We were selling Catch Me If You Can along with Pete and Chris co-albums, by which time we'd done 2 albums for Bill Leader, including, and also we'd done an album for Highway Records, which was called Game of All Fours. And we recorded Betsy's Game of All Fours song, and Sophie's Catch Me If You Can, Chris singing it, me playing Melodian, and Charlotte's The Beggar song, which Chris played concertina, I played bouzouki, and we both sang it together. So we recorded 3 of the ladies' songs, and so we were taking our own LPs around and also the original recordings.
Right, yeah.
So we actually sold quite a few. So, it was doing pretty well. And then, of course, me and Chris stopped working together. We never fell out. We were always good mates. But, we stopped working together. And in fact, Chris went to do a degree in Sheffield, in fact, fine arts. And was doing other stuff, singing with Maggie Holland, doing occasional gigs with Johnny, and so on and so forth. And I was working solo, by which time, John later on had moved on to putting the veteran recordings out on CD. Now, the tape, Catch Me If You Can, had sold pretty well. And I said to John, well, what about putting it out on CD? I'll certainly sell some. And John was a bit reluctant at first. And I said, okay, well, look, I'll pay half. I'll pay the costs. So it can, but give us credit. So it goes out on veteran, of course, but veteran and backshift. And we'll work out a deal. In terms of how many CDs I have from you, to sell so that I get my money back,
Sure.
And you get your money back, sort of thing, as well. So that's what we did. It was just a deal,
And so that CD, the first of the 2 CD versions of this collection, is that first CD just verbatim what was on the cassette, or was there extra stuff, or
I can't remember.
Because we know what's new for this new release, but then the transition from veteran tape to veteran CD.
Yeah.
Were there differences, or was it just a direct copy?
I don't know. I couldn't.
Okay.
What I do know is that it sold out the first 500 fairly quickly.
Wow.
And we had a repress of another 500. And we sold them out as well. And really, all I had to do on a folk club night was sing Catch Me If You Can. Because I'd rearranged it so that I could sing it. And in fact, I re-recorded it as well and put it on one of my CDs.
Oh, that's In Paper Houses. That's the album.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was sing "Catch Me If You Can" and just tell the audience a couple of stories about the ladies. And I'd certainly, I'd certainly sell one of my CDs, and very often I would sell, I would sell one of theirs.
Brilliant.
So
yeah.
That was how it was.
And then, coming up to this new re-release then, because this is 23 years ago that CD, when it came to Veteran, put it on CD. That was 2002, I think, wasn't it? So it's 23 years ago, and here we are today. And so there are differences, aren't there, in the new one, because we've got so partly. It's a bit of an odd mixture in terms of new stuff, old stuff, because it's the previous release plus 3 bonus tracks, 3 songs that weren't on the previous release. But we've actually got interviews because as you said, you recorded these women singing, but you also chatted to them and actually interviewed them properly.
Well, they became friends, I mean, it was a delightful week. I mean, looking back on it now, I think of all the things that I've done over 50 odd years of being on the road, it's the thing I'm proudest of. And I was put in that position by default, and what a privilege it turned out to be.
Yeah,
because they were great company. And they were very, very good fun. I mean, the interesting thing is, they were Betsy was telling me about their life on the road and under canvas and all that sort of thing, because they lived on the canvas, in under the Penrose Army tents, and the Penrose Army tents were the same tents that were used in the American Civil War.
Oh,
yeah, wow. I didn't know that either. Because, of course, initially, until I started talking to them and getting their stories, I thought they had bow-top wagon and all that sort of stuff. And, of course, and I had a few preconceived ideas that their life on the road was like a lot of travellers were they underwent a lot of hardship. But it appears not. It appears that Edwin, their father, and Susan, their mother, Edwin particularly, I think, was a really good businessman.
Yeah.
He had when he came off the road, he had this bungalow built just outside Lounston, I think it was, on land that he'd already bought. And then when Betsy and Charlotte came off the road, Betsy and Charlotte had married two Methodist farmers' sons, Bob and Jack. Well, Bob was still alive when I was down there in '78. Jack had by then, who was Betsy's husband, he died, but Bob was still around. But when they came off the road, Charlotte and Bob went farming eventually, and made their peace with their husband's family, because the families were divided. The Methodists farmers were not very keen on their sons marrying these gypsy girls, and of course the gypsy girls, the two lads, Bob and Jack, went on the road, with the Orchard family, and I mean, I think Charlotte said that they had more friends when they were on the road than they'd ever had in their lifetime before,
Right.
And really took to it. By around about 1930, Betsy and Charlotte had got children, and they wanted a better education for their kids than they'd had themselves. There was an interesting story that Betsy told me. They'd in the sleeve notes, there's these wonderful photographs that were taken at a photographer's studio in Plymouth. Well, they went down to Plymouth on one occasion, and Charlotte had heard a peddler or whatever, a broadside seller singing a folk song, and Charlotte was quite taken with this song, and so she bought it. But when she showed it to Betsy, it transpired that what he'd sold her was a completely different song, because she wasn't a good reader, but Betsy was.
Okay.
Betsy had taught herself to read, and was a damn good reader, But this was when the girls were about 20. So,
Okay.
so the cunning bastard had sold Charlotte the wrong song. She was not happy.
Yes, I can imagine.
But
Yeah.
that was the interesting thing. That would be 1920. So there was a broadside seller singing, singing songs in Plymouth.
Yeah.
That's late,
That's
That's
very
another
late, isn't
piece
it?
of history, It's lovely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking at the track order for this new one. Not that the order's anything to do with it, but yeah, I'm just pointing out to listeners that this new release is essentially everything from the previous release plus the interviews, and which I think there's 11 tracks. I just tried to tot up just now. I think there's 11 tracks dotted throughout the new release that are bits of interviews and chat. And then there's also 2 bonus tracks, which I think the 2 tracks which weren't on the previous CD. I don't know whether they were on the veteran tape or the people stage. Sailor Cut Down in His Prime and Van Diemen's Land. They're on the new one, but were they on any previous? Can you remember if they were on the previous ones or?
Yeah, I think they were. Yeah.
Okay. So
certainly Van Diemen's Land, because it was Betsy got only a fragment of Van Diemen's Land, but it's an interesting tune, and I've always intended to get round to learning it, because I think it would go on the banjo. But also, but it needs filling out to tell the full story.
Sure.
But I just haven't got around to doing it because I've had, all sorts of health problems recently, yeah. and so just getting back to, singing, the basic repertoire I've got.
Indeed. And so, yeah, those 2 are bonus tracks for the CD. Shameless plug. You mentioned Van Diemen's Land. The other one is Sailor Cut Down in His Prime. Shameless plug. That's season 1, episode 2 of my podcast, because it's Roud. Because it's Roud 2. History by Vic Gammon. Singer guest Brian Peters. Listen to that on In The Roud, a folk song podcast. And the rest is the same, except because Mossy has tried to fit the 2 bonus tracks. Oh, it's 3 bonus tracks. Sorry, I've missed one out. The Beggar is another bonus track. So the Beggar wasn't on at the very least, it wasn't on the previous veteran CD of this, but it probably was on either of the cassettes. You reckon?
I don't know, to be honest.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just asking. So because Mossy has fitted this is Mossy Christian, who runs Veteran Records now, has included the 3 bonus tracks that at very least weren't on the original CD, and all of the 11 bits of interviews. That does mean that there are 2 or 3 songs from the previous CD that he couldn't fit on the new one. So although this has got extra tracks and interviews, there are 2 or 3 tracks that he had cut out. But if you buy this from the Veteran Bandcamp page, you will get a download of the album as well as the physical disc, and on the download will include the tracks that he had cut off in order to fit the interviews on. So, please do. I mean, all hail physical media, as I keep saying. Please do buy the CD from Veteran. But if you want the rest of the songs that didn't make it on, that were on the previous one, if you haven't got the previous one, the download comes with the CD. So please get that as well.
Yeah.
So you get.
Well, I mean, despite the fact that we must have sold 1,000 of the Veteran CDs, so the original CD edition, plus quite a few. I've no idea, no figures for the cassette sales, but there's a new generation, a new younger generation, who missed out on the CD. Now, I mean, I know that a lot of the younger generation don't buy CDs, but some of them do, and it's a limited edition. It's not, I'd be lucky if it sold another 1,000, but who knows? It's up to the younger generation who missed out first time round. If you sing this stuff and you're really interested in this stuff, you really do have to put your hand in your pocket and support the company that is putting its bank account on the line to bring this stuff out to you.
Exactly. I do try to do this myself. I earn money. I do earn from gigs and whatever. I do try and buy the actual product or things and go and see gigs, because we're all helping each other earn a living in a way. We're all should really try and feed money back into buying gig tickets, buying the CDs that come from these littler labels, just helping us. We're helping each other keep this stuff going, and the release of this stuff.
Well, that's right. I mean, and I would also suggest and would advocate what myself and Chris did with Bill Leader's LPs in the 70s. We took each other's LPs round to folk clubs. So me and Chris would take Nick Jones's stuff, Tony Rose's stuff. I mean, because they were mates, and of course we ended up singing and playing with Nick Jones and Tony Rose in Band Dogs.
Indeed, so yes.
But high level ranters, and Martin Wyndham Reed, all that sort of stuff. Well, with the younger generation who've done their own recordings, at the end of the gig, help your mates.
Yeah.
Have a swap, have a swap deal. So that you just take 3 or 4 of your mates' CDs, and they take some of yours, and you pass the name around. You pass the names, and you help each other with sales. Don't just only sell your own stuff, because that's bloody selfish, to be honest. It's you're selling this material, not your bloody career. This this material is worth more than your career, and it's certainly worth more than my career of something like 56 years, 55 years. And Martin Carthy will tell you exactly the bloody same.
I'm sure he would.
Know,
as I well know, quite so. And yes, I was certainly doing a little bit of that with me with the podcast, because listeners will know, because I rabbit on about it at the end of every episode. But In The Roud and Veteran are linked in a sort of, we are in the old days. I don't know if people know this. Veteran F Roots magazine was the sort of media partner to veteran.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a back scratching exercise with advertising, and so In The Roud and Veteran have the same link now. Hence why we are doing this episode. This is a back scratching exercise. I'm helping Veteran out with the release of this, and they'll do stuff within The Roud, and it all helps each other.
Indeed, yeah.
And so,
and of course, with all with that comes not just selling just your own CDs and other people's, because basically, as I said earlier on, you come to the end of the night and somebody says, "Oh yeah, but I bought your CD, a couple of months ago." Oh, hang on a minute, there's so and so's CD.
If you liked us, you may like this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's a bit smooth and.
Yes, I know. That was the
Amazonian.
That was the point. Yes.
But that's right. But then it comes down to it. Then doing what you and Mossy are doing. I am absolutely delighted that that Mossy at such a young age. We've known him since he was about 8 years old.
Right.
7, Sue says.
So you've only known him about 5 years, then, have you? Is that right?
Because he was one of Sue's sword dancers.
Right. Yeah, of course.
At Whitby, and he's been over here, and he's joined in sessions, some of the Ryburn Monday night sessions, playing fiddle and melodeon, and that's great. And he's coming this weekend. I hope to deliver some of the CDs.
Great.
Which is nice. And I will be paying my share of the release. But the release, of course, as you've probably mentioned, the releases are going to be at Sidmouth, Dartmoor, and we've had a call from Viv Legg. She's coming up to Whitby with Vic as well, which is really
brilliant.
Nice. So
that's fantastic. Yeah, because we're doing the Sidmouth launch is on the 6th of August. That's the Wednesday, and that is today. If you're listening to this episode on the day it comes out, that is today. So if you've heard this, the CD is now out.
Yeah, and Dartmoor is going to be, I think, is the 10th, and that's going to be in the late afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
Whitby is 12 to 1:30 on the 21st, which is Excellent. A Thursday. I think that's a Thursday.
Excellent. Well, In The Roud, a folk song podcast, will be representing at both Sidmouth and Whitby, and it'll be fantastic. Just to round this out, because I've said what's on the CD. It's songs from the previous one, 3 more bonus tracks, minus a couple of tracks, but you can get them on the download and the interviews. Just out of curiosity, apart from some of the big numbers you mentioned, like Catch Me If You Can and possibly The Beggar and something else, just give us I suppose you'd recommend them all, but are there any particular sort of highlights in terms of songs or the performance of a song from these recordings that you particularly love and would get people to go to gravitate towards?
Yeah, I do like The Game of All Fours. I love that. That was a great song.
And which one was singing that? I can't remember which one was singing that.
That was Aunt Betsy.
Betsy, right? Okay.
Yeah. And I think she also sang The Crafty Farmer. There was a rich farmer in Cheshire.
Yes, yeah.
And Charlotte singing The Bonny Bunch of Roses. Because that came about because after I'd recorded them singing, the songs that Vic had given me a list of, I then started just mentioning songs. Sometimes Vic had helped on this.
Yeah.
And I was looking at I was looking at recordings of other traveller songs and saying, do you know a song about so and so? About the crafty farmer who outwits the highwayman. Oh yeah. Yes, says Betsy, and sings me The Crafty Farmer.
Right. I just noticed that in your sleeve notes, the notes that you've written for the new release, you've written something I was particularly amused by, that
Oh, yeah.
the triggering the songs, and Charlotte said she didn't know a song about Napoleon, but did know a song about Bonaparte.
That was great.
That is wonderful. That's just a
right.
fantastic little moment.
Yeah, isn't it? It's priceless.
Excellent.
One of the things that Betsy said, it was March 78 when we recorded, and she had a really nice view out of her back window. And she was talking about, being on the road and living under canvas and doing the hawking and that sort of thing. And she says, even now, at this time of year, when the sun is out, she says, I still have the feeling that, about going on the road again, This was at the age of 78. She still wanted to go back on the road again.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, I think we'll finish there. In a sense, just on its own, it is wonderful that Viv and Vic are, alive today is a silly thing to say, but they're alive today and are singing their family's songs, and Everly Brothers and all sorts on Vic's side. But they're alive and well and still singing these songs and carrying these songs forward for people to hear. Mm-hmm. But there's the other side of it is that you did the work and went there and actually recorded the women themselves singing, and through chatting to people like Vic and Viv, we know where their songs came from. The women, so they learned them from their father and whoever else, and it's just it is absolutely fantastic that that you did the work and put the work in and went down and spoke to them and collected them, and we all in the traditional world, I suppose, owe you a big debt of gratitude for your work in this.
Yeah. I was in the right place at the right time, and to be honest, it's been a privilege. One of many. I've been a professional musician since 1971, and I've got another year, I think, of long distance traveling, and then I will be, probably just concentrating on our own club and Ryburn three-step, and just, work in Lancashire, Yorkshire and Cheshire, where there's less traveling because it's getting harder. So, the whole thing has been a privilege, but that particular episode of my life was possibly the greatest privilege of all.
Wow, yes, I can imagine. And an absolute honour to have you on this episode to talk about that and give your thoughts and your experiences and memories of recording them, and indeed to have Vic and Viv on earlier as well. This is great. There aren't that many people left, I suppose, who are in a sense the real deal, the genuine traditional singers. We've got and it's usually families. We've got Vic and Viv. There's the Copper family in Sussex, and there's the Dartmoor lot. Or that's predominantly tune playing, but it's still in the same area of traditional songs. It's the Dartmoor Pixie Band style stuff, and it's getting rarer that we actually got the real deal when it comes to traditional singing, still alive and singing and willing to chat with us and discuss things. So from my end, it's an absolute honour and a privilege to talk to Vic and Viv and your good self about all this. Pigco, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Another huge thanks to Pete Coe for giving us his time and for sharing his stories of Betsy, Charlotte and Sophie. And there we go. That's it for this special bonus episode. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and please do support Veteran if you can. Small independent labels can only function if you, the people, support and buy the releases. And this re-release of Catch Me If You Can is available both on CD and as a digital download from veterantapes.bandcamp.com. That's veterantapes.bandcamp.com. They also have the rest of their extensive catalogue up there as well. As I said, In The Roud will be off air for a couple of months, but we'll be back with Season 5 on the 1st of October. And so, as a change from the usual In The Roud theme music, let's finish with a recording of Pete and Chris Coe This is from their 1979 LP, Game of All Fours, and it's Chris singing with Pete on melodeon, performing the song they learnt from Sophie Legg, Catch Me If You Can. Thank you all, have a great couple of months, and see you in October.
All early, all in the spring, down in those meadows oh so green, a fair pretty maiden I chanced to see, and asked her if she would walk with me. I asked her if she would walk with me down in those meadows oh so green. I'd show flowers and pretty things, and I'd show her what she had never seen. As this young couple went strolling along, he sang to her some sweet pretty songs. He sang to her some sweet pretty songs, and soon he gained her favour. Now that you've had your will of me, and stolen away my sweet liberty, and stolen away my sweet liberty, won't you please to tell me your name, sir? My name is Catch Me, that's if you can. I'll marry you when I return. I'll marry you when I return, but I'm going across the wide ocean. When 3 long months they was gone and past, and 6 long months he never returned, and 9 long months they was come at last, and the child has got no father. I'll search this wide world all around and around, and I'll find that young man if I can. I'll find that young man if I can, if I catch him at his pleasure. My name is Catch Me, that's if you can. I'll marry you when I return. I'll marry you when I return, but I'm going across the wide ocean.